This tiny, furry creature outsold the PlayStation 5. It sparked riots, showed up in K-pop videos, and sold for hundreds of dollars. Labubu isn't a toy, it's an obsession. No game, no story, just a sealed box and a gamble. Pop Mart didn't build a brand, they built a dopamine machine. And what most people don't know, the hype wasn't an accident. It was engineered from day one. Pop Mart doesn't sell toys, they sell hope, sealed in a $15 box. There's no game to play, no instructions, no purpose beyond the moment you open it. Just a stylized creature in a metallic wrapper. Cute, strange, silent. But what it represents is louder than anything: possibility. Because when you hold a Pop Mart box, you're not buying what's inside. You're buying a chance, a shot at something rare, a moment of imagined reward. This is not a toy economy, it's a dopamine economy. The architect of this system wasn't a designer or a marketer or even an artist. His name is Wang Ning, a quiet retailer running a failing DVD and hair accessory store in Beijing. In 2005, during a trip to Hong Kong, he noticed something that changed everything. Grown adults crowding around a toy store, not to pick the best one, but to not know. They were buying sealed boxes without knowing what was inside, and doing it again and again and again. What Ning saw wasn't novelty, it was addiction. The randomness, the scarcity, the hit of surprise. This wasn't just a purchase, it was a micro casino, and no one seemed to realize it, so he reverse engineered the feeling. In 2010, he launched Pop Mart, not as a toy manufacturer, but as an emotion machine. Vending machines, collectible racks, online drops, all with the same formula. Every box identical, every figure randomized, every collection incomplete. It wasn't about the product, it was about the pattern, the loop. Buy, open, repeat, no reward guaranteed, but always just out of reach. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines. You never know when the jackpot will hit, so your brain keeps chasing it, because maybe the next one is it. Pop Mart didn't hide this. They amplified it by controlling distribution, by inserting rare secret editions, by never revealing full odds, by keeping customers hooked on hope. And it worked. Pop Mart exploded across Asia, launching character lines, collaborating with designers, and installing vending machines in luxury malls, all powered by the same silent engine. Not storytelling, not nostalgia, just uncertainty. Pop Mart doesn't sell toys, they sell triggers, and those triggers are working exactly as designed. And just like that, the machine had its mascot. Not a character, not a story, just a shape, a silhouette that stuck. Because once Pop Mart perfected the loop, the random reward, the emotional itch, it only needed one thing to go nuclear: a face. Not a Mickey Mouse, not a Hello Kitty, something stranger, something more ambiguous, something that didn't explain itself, but still made you feel. Enter Labubu. Labubu doesn't need lore. No backstory, no cartoon, no emotional arc, just a strange little face. Part bunny, part goblin, part fever dream. But somehow, that was enough. What began as one character in Pop Mart's The Monsters line mutated into something far bigger. Labubu didn't explain herself. She didn't have to. She signaled. With her twisted smile and oversized eyes, she was instantly recognizable, instantly viral. She didn't speak to your brain, she spoke to your algorithm. By 2020, Labubu had become the crown jewel of Pop Mart's empire. Not because of a story, but because of presence. You'd spot her clipped to handbags in Seoul, posed beside perfumes in Harajuku, floating across Instagram feeds like an aesthetic virus. Labubu wasn't a character. She was a mood board item, a vibe, a social token. K-pop idols flaunted her in paparazzi shots. TikTokers unboxed her like she was haute couture. Limited drops would vanish in minutes. No warning, no explanation, no need. And that's what made her so powerful. The less she had explained, the more people projected. Collectors obsessed over color variants and texture differences. Resellers flipped rare editions for hundreds, sometimes thousands. But it wasn't about value. It was about status. Owning Labubu meant something unspoken. It meant you were early, You were fluent. You belonged. Because in a culture driven by image, Labubu wasn't a toy. She was proof of taste, of access, of being in. Pop Mart never had to push her. The audience did the work. Because Labubu didn't sell a story. She sold a statement. And for a brief, surreal moment, she became everything. A fashion accessory, a collector's gem, a digital trophy, a lifestyle flex. But no one noticed the cracks forming beneath the surface. Because everything that made Labubu so irresistible was also what made her so disposable. But icons built on mystery have an expiry date, because the more people wanted her, the more they bought. And the more they bought, the more they realized. Wanting was the product. Labubu didn't just spark desire. She trapped it in a loop, and that loop was only just beginning. The addiction algorithm. At first it feels harmless. A sealed box, a cute design, a little rush of excitement. You open it, you smile, you try again. But Pop Mart didn't build a toy line. They built a psychological loop. Every Labubu box follows the same formula. Identical packaging, randomized contents, low odds of scoring the rare one. It's not a surprise, it's a slot machine, but slower, softer, and wrapped in pastel plastic. This is intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive behavior pattern ever discovered in psychology.
I spent $300 on these stupid Labubus, bro. I want a pink one.
Your brain gets trained to expect reward, but not every time. Sometimes you win, most times you don't. And that unpredictability, that's the hook. Collectors weren't just buying toys, they were chasing dopamine. Reddit exploded with threads analyzing drop rates and packaging weights. YouTubers ran blind box unboxing marathons, each video a slow-motion casino pull. Spreadsheets tracked rumored chase figures. Portable scales and X-ray devices appeared in forums. This wasn't fandom. This was behavioral gambling. Gamified, monetized, and normalized. And Pop Mart leaned in. They hid the odds. They teased mystery characters. They introduced secret variants not listed anywhere. Every series had just enough carrot to keep buyers in the loop, but never enough closure to stop. Even duplicates became part of the game. Collectors called them tuplicates, figures they already owned but kept buying anyway. Because maybe the next one would be the rare. Because stopping felt like giving up. Because sunk cost psychology started to set in. And that was the fatal flaw. What made Labubu so viral, her randomness, her scarcity, her endless chase, was also what made her unsustainable. The longer people played, the more exhausted they became. What started as fun turned into frustration. Joy turned into obsession. Hope turned into habit. Pop Mart's system wasn't broken. It was too perfect, too optimized, too efficient at pulling people deeper into a loop they couldn't exit. And that's when the cracks started to show. Not in the product, but in the people buying it. Because eventually, every slot machine stops being fun. And every dopamine loop burns out. But dopamine has a half-life. And eventually, even the most perfect loop starts to feel empty. Not because the product changed, but because the thrill did. The cracks weren't just visible now, they were spreading. Across wallets, across forums, across feeds. And the moment buyers stopped chasing the figure, they started noticing the feeling. For a while, the system worked. A sealed box, a flutter of excitement, and the possibility, maybe this time. But the thing about loops is, they lose power once you see them. As Labubu fever spread, something began to shift. Not in the product, but in the experience. What began as a playful thrill turned into strategy, into speculation, into stress. Pop Mart pushed harder. Region-locked editions, midnight drops, high-fashion collabs. But the more exclusive it became, the more the magic eroded. What once felt rare now felt calculated. What once felt fun now felt forced. Collectors changed too. Notebooks turned into spreadsheets. Hauls turned into inventory. Figures became investments. Assets to flip, not characters to enjoy. Chasing the rare wasn't joyful anymore, it was exhausting. Online, the tone cracked. TikToks titled, "Why I'm Done with Pop Mart." YouTubers filmed shelves full of regrets. Reddit filled with trade offers no one answered. A new term emerged, plastic fatigue. Because people didn't just lose interest, they lost trust. They started to feel manipulated by the secret variants, by the fake scarcity, by the illusion of control. And Pop Mart's response? More exclusivity, more mystery, more friction. As if the answer to burnout was was more fire. Europe was first to go quiet. What were once queues outside vending machines became ignored mall corners. In Korea, collectors purged entire sets overnight. On global resale sites, prices collapsed. The dopamine was gone. And in its place, doubt. Why did I buy this? When did this stop being fun? Was I ever in control at all? Because when desire turns into obligation, the game changes. And when people stop playing for joy, they start playing to escape. That's when the Labubu loop didn't just wear off. It turned against itself. The high was gone. The trust was broken. But something deeper remained. Not excitement, not community, just the ritual. Because even after the thrill fades, the motion keeps going. And that's when Pop Mart's real design revealed itself. Not a toy brand, a loop you couldn't stop even when you wanted to. By the time the regret set in, it was already too late. Pop Mart didn't slow down. They scaled. New stores, new drops, new collaborations, more plush, more packaging, more variants. The engine was still running full speed, long after the passengers had stopped enjoying the ride. Collectors weren't excited anymore. They were compelled, scrolling for new drops they didn't care about, buying figures they didn't really want, uploading shelf photos to prove they were still in the game. Even as dopamine debt crept in, even as unopened boxes piled up, even as people said aloud for the first time, I don't even know why I'm doing this. But Pop Mart had already shifted, from culture to capital, from joy to momentum. The toy didn't need to spark emotion anymore, it just needed to move. And it did, because the system still worked. The rare drops, the FOMO, the randomized rush. It was too well designed, too efficient. A dopamine factory with no off switch. And that's the irony. The fans were burning out, but the loop kept running. Like a casino that still plays music even when the floor is empty. What once felt personal now felt programmed. The characters that once brought joy now sat lifeless, staring back from overstuffed shelves. The thrill was gone, but the spending didn't stop. Because now, it wasn't about getting the rare. It was about becoming the version of yourself who finally did. The one who beat the odds. The one who won. But that person never arrives. Because in a system built on randomness, there is no end. No finish line, just the next box. Pop Mart didn't just build a brand. They built a belief system. And even when the magic faded, the ritual remained. Buy, open, repeat. Not because it's fun, because it's familiar. And for many, that routine became the only thing left holding it all together. Not joy, not fandom, just habit. The collectors weren't chasing Labubu anymore. They were chasing the version of themselves that still felt something when they opened the box. And that version? She's not coming back. It was never about the figure. It was about the feeling we thought it would deliver. And when that feeling faded, we didn't stop. We doubled down. Not because we believed in Labubu, but because we still believed in the next box. And that belief? It didn't come from Pop Mart, it came from us. Labubu was never the monster. She was the mirror. A blank stare, a silent grin, a vessel we filled with everything we wanted to believe. That collecting meant belonging, that buying meant becoming, that joy could be summoned on demand in a box for 15 on. Pop Mart didn't sell toys. They sold a feeling of control, of progress, of identity. But the more we played, the more obvious it became. There was no story, no payoff, just motion, wrapped in color, masked as meaning. We weren't chasing figures, we were chasing proof that we were still connected, that this obsession was justified, that we were someone in the endless scroll of curated shelves and unopened boxes. But somewhere along the way, the mask slipped, the shelves filled, the thrill faded, the story we told ourselves cracked, because deep down, we knew. We weren't building a collection, we were building a cage. Each box a small promise that didn't deliver, but one we believed anyway, because belief is easier than stopping. Because stopping means looking at the emptiness underneath. The emptiness was never in Labubu. It was in what we projected onto her. She didn't trick us. She simply reflected what we wanted to be true. That happiness could be bought. That scarcity meant value. That repetition meant meaning. But it didn't. And now the game is over. Not because we finished it, but because we finally saw it for what it was. A performance, a ritual, a beautiful, hollow loop. Not a scam, not a con, just a story. And we were the ones who made it real. So before you open the next box, ask yourself, do you really want what's inside? Or just the chase? Because Labubu was never about the figure. It was about the feeling, the maybe, the what if, the almost. And the truth is, curiosity is the only collectible that actually grows in value. If you've ever chased something that felt good, until it didn't, drop a comment below, share your story, And subscribe for more deep dives into the brands that shape us and sometimes trap us. Because Pop Mart wasn't the first company to sell happiness in a box, and it won't be the last.